Amazon is getting into the auto business, announcing last week that they're going to partner with Hyundai to allow dealers to sell their vehicles on their site. They're going to integrate Alexa into vehicles and start using AWS more. So, this is a very interesting move by one of the biggest technology companies in the world to move more into the auto business. Remember, we already have Apple with CarPlay, Alphabet's Android Auto. So, tech companies are not new to the auto space, but this is actually a company trying to retail products, which is pretty novel. And so I want to go through exactly what they announced because it was a little bit different than what the headline said and what the implications might be long term. Because I think we're going to see more of a convergence of a lot of these automakers and technology companies, and the power dynamic between them is going to be really interesting to watch play out. My name is Travis Hoyam. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. Check out fool.com/ASYM for their top 10 stocks to buy right now. I want to start by just going directly to what Amazon announced. This is the press release from Amazon. You can see that they announced a partnership, a broad strategic partnership, including vehicle sales on Amazon.com starting next year. That sounds like you're going to be able to just go buy directly from Hyundai, but that's not exactly what was announced. If we go down here to the first bullet point that they talk about, in 2024, auto dealers for the first time will be able to sell vehicles on Amazon's US store. Hyundai is going to be the first company that's going to allow them to do that, but this is really just putting inventory that dealers already had on Amazon.com. So not quite the same as Hyundai directly going to consumers through Amazon, but this could have a pretty solid impact for consumers. It increases the transparency. If you've ever gone on these dealer sites, they're often very convoluted, very difficult to get around and sort vehicles. So I think we'll probably see Amazon do a better job of that. And it could be a better buying experience as well. You don't have to deal with an auto dealer. On the downside, you may not get the ability to negotiate very much if you are able to negotiate a better price with an automaker. So there's kind of some back and forth on what's going on here, but I think this is a pretty solid move and a great thing to test if you are Hyundai and you're not one of the biggest automakers in the US. This gives you another channel to sell your vehicles. For Amazon, the impact is going to be a little bit different. I think the two pieces from Amazon, it's not really just selling vehicles on Amazon.com that they're going to be worried about. It is Hyundai selecting AWS as its preferred cloud partner to accelerate the digital transformation using broad and industry-leading AWS capabilities from compute, storage, database, analytics, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things. That is a lot of things there. Sounds like a very broad agreement, but the takeaway is that AWS is going to be the cloud provider of choice for Hyundai. So they're going to lean on AWS for any of the cloud services. There, a lot of the updates are moving to the cloud, especially for electric vehicles. So we'll likely see that go through AWS and any data that's going back and forth between vehicles and the cloud as well. So this is going to be an arms race really between these cloud providers and who they're able to partner with in the auto industry. The other thing that is notable, Alexa is going to be built in to Hyundai vehicles starting in 2025. So just like you have with Alexa devices in the home, you're just going to be able to talk to Alexa while you're in the car. Another interesting use case, especially as we start to have wireless connectivity in more and more vehicles. This is going to be another great use case. Maybe we even get artificial intelligence able to really talk to an AI like Alexa with a deal like this. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. Now, I mentioned earlier that tech companies and automakers are really starting to converge, and this is one of the more interesting partnerships that we've seen. The way that this really started was companies like Apple and Alphabet allowing automakers to use their software as a point of interface to access the phone. And that was really what they were trying to do with things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But we're integrating those products more and more into the vehicle. So there is the ability to use a lot of those products to actually see how fast you're going and things like that. Tesla has probably done the most of this digitizing its product, but it's not using a third-party technology company. They're building that software themselves. So we've seen General Motors in the past year announce that their future electric vehicles are going to have a custom-made interface. They're not going to allow Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. They're going to actually work with Alphabet to develop their own custom software that you're going to interface with. And the reason for that is the value in vehicles is now becoming what that digital interface looks like. The vehicle itself is going to be a way for you to get from point A to point B, but are you able to talk to an artificial intelligence? Are you able to access your streaming music? What is the maps experience? What sort of updates come in? This is more of a technology question than it is just an automaker question. So when you start to think about these companies and how they might partner, what is the area of expertise for each of these companies? An automaker who has spent the last 100 years trying to become more efficient in producing hardware is not necessarily going to be the best company to produce software, especially if they're a little bit smaller scale like Hyundai is. So it makes sense to lean on some of these other companies like Amazon to produce some of that software. Now, what we didn't hear in this was that Amazon was going to be taking over the interface that people are going to be interacting with. So we're going to be interacting with AWS and Alexa, but it's not going to be an Amazon interface, at least not yet. That is the tension that some of the bigger automakers are having. I mentioned General Motors. They're basically saying we don't want to have Apple or Alphabet be the point of interaction and the reason that you buy a General Motors vehicle, because then that value goes to those tech companies. We want to maintain that value, that data, that ability to interact with our customers and even sell them things like software and services. So it makes sense for a lot of these companies to work together, but there's going to be tension between where that value is in the supply chain, what services are provided by the tech companies, what services are provided by the hardware companies, and then how do you sell these vehicles? Because we are moving to a more digital future. Does it make sense for vehicles to be sold out of a dealership in a traditional model, or are we going to just order vehicles online and have them delivered? What Amazon announced in this deal was that if you ordered a vehicle online, it was actually the local dealer who was going to deliver it for you. So the dealer is still involved in this interaction, but maybe not in quite the same way that they are with a traditional purchase. So a lot of things yet to play out with a lot of these companies, but it's very clear that the technology companies are very interested in getting into the auto business. One thing I didn't mention that we'll probably see come up more and more is all of these companies have some sort of autonomous driving technology. Alphabet, you have Waymo. General Motors, you have Cruise. Amazon has Zoox, which is very similar to both Waymo and Cruise. Do we start to see that autonomous technology start to creep its way into consumer vehicles? That would be the next level of integration between these companies and could ultimately mean that the automaker themselves start to be more commoditized. Not that they aren't already commoditized in a lot of ways, but a lot of the value ultimately starts accruing to these technology companies. So something to watch for. Amazon is clearly making a play to become a player in the auto industry. Definitely not one of the leaders right now. I would put Apple and Alphabet in that case, but maybe a company to watch a little bit more in the future. What did you think about Amazon's deal with Hyundai? What the future of that might look like, what the impact on buyers' experience will look like? Leave those comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.